I've decided to get rid of some really old furniture. I really did not want to do it because I'm a very sentimental guy, but in order to make space and for health reasons, I'm gonna be forced to do so. Here I have this cabinet. It used to be my grandmother's, and it's at least 25 years old. It used to lie a foot off the bottom of my grandmother's bed in her senior's apartment, which was just a room. It was an independent living arrangement, and it was just a small room, a quarter the size of this room, maybe this area here, this office area, and yeah, or half the size of this. But I used to sit sometimes looking at this and you know, thinking about the things inside of it, because it used to have its my grandmother's treasure in it, her money, and yeah, we used to go to the dollar store a lot. She used to give us some money for buying ourselves whatever we wanted, which was a rare thing for us, and for me and my sister in particular, who used to visit her a lot. And she would have her sewing things in here. She was a seamstress, the trades of the poor, seamstress, hair cutters, cleaners, yeah, lawn caretakers, and she would also have her medical supplies, medical devices, you know, blood pressure taker, stuff like that in here. And yeah, again, her treasures, bracelet, or yeah, cross bracelet here, or I should say necklace, or got a watch. Yeah, lots of things from my grandmother still in here, still untouched, and I took it over and started storing some of my business stuff and other things. And I realized there's a lot of off-gassing coming out of these cabinets. This one, 15 years old at least. According to my mother, she bought it for my sister. And when you get close to them or open the drawers especially, you get a really strong whiff of what I believe is formaldehyde. These were made at a time these are particle boards, and at that time they were made. I don't think they were particularly concerned with the processes, especially those involving formaldehyde, and back then there wasn't all that caution surrounding formaldehyde, and it was just not feared much. It was used liberally, and yeah, you can get a lot of off-gassing. So unfortunately, safety is above holding on to relics, and yeah, I really, it's one of the last things that has survived from my grandmother's on my mother's side, and it just has to be disposed of out of necessity, because it's bearing down on me health-wise. It's a drag on me, and as you can see, my bed is right beside them, so they're really not worth the health effects I'm getting keeping them just for the sake of it. And they're really not functionally necessary, as I keep all my clothes in laundry baskets. There you go. And all of the things that were in those cabinets fitted in these two laundry baskets. And as I made a video stating before, I'm gonna redesign this room, and it's gonna be a whole new different setup in here. So I wanna get rid of those and replace them with wire shelves, which should cause the minimum of the environmental effect in my room, health safety issue, I hope. And the other thing that I'm doing this for is that I'm really fed up with all the dust that seems to cover my every surface in my room in a short period of time after cleaning them. And yeah, it's really something that I've gotten more and more frustrated with as time went on, and I just don't understand the source of all this fine dust that covers everything. Maybe it's these fabric couches, probably they are a big part of it, but I think it's all the wood furniture as well they are releasing dust, and I think reducing the amount of clutter in the room will help with the dust a bit. It's the dust is one of those things that are an unsolvable problem in the world. It's one of those things people just have to live with and deal with on a constant basis, and they hope that there would be some solution to one day. It's one of those hard mysteries to solve. Then another really old piece of furniture that I'm gonna get rid of is this really nice dining room table here. Very nice grain. This is 30 years old. We got when we moved to Canada. The first dining room table we got, and one of the first things we got. It has a lot of sentimental value. I'm hoping that it will be adopted by a new family in unfortunate circumstances. Maybe people in domestic abuse situations moving into new places, or poor immigrants, anyone who's poor. I hope, because I wanna give it to the organizations that reuse furniture, unwanted furniture, to furnish places for the less well off. And I spent sometimes doing homework on it, eating cereal, and there's some markings from the times of old. It's not real wood, unfortunately, all particle board. And that time, let me see if I can smell the formaldehyde coming out. No, this one doesn't give aroma of formaldehyde, but it's probably aired enough. But at that time, particle board can't be trusted from those years. At least I believe. And it's 30 years old, so it's a difficult thing to just take out of your life. But its time has passed, and I can only hope its life will continue on rather than go to the table heaven. And but I'm also realistic, and that I recognize there's the lodge of unwanted furniture everywhere, and chances of surviving are little. Probably much cheaper furniture than this. My sister's fiance said he's doing a garage sale, and he would rather sell them for $5, something like that, a piece or something like that. Whatever amount of money he can get for at a garage sale. But I think I rather, give them to charity. It's I'm not a rich guy, and I can use any extra dollars, but I also feed the birds, and I have no reason to do that, to have the extra expenditure. And yeah, I don't feel any guilt for or resentment for doing good to charity. If I can feed the birds, I can certainly contribute something to my fellow human beings, and not feel a bit of a tinge of resentment for not getting a few measly dollars from them. But there's always concern in the back of my mind that they will not be as appreciated as if someone had paid money for them. Yeah, that table too, Anna give to charity. For a long time, we were not well off. We were poor, and we only had the basic essentials to eat, the minimal, and a lot of time we had a very bare, insufficient lunch for school, and it wasn't complete at all, so it hardly did anything, and eventually I stopped taking my lunch to school because like I said, it wasn't very nutritious, and most of the time it impeded in my health rather than help it. It was basic carbs or some dairy with minimal nutritional value, and it just, my body struggled digesting it and finding the nutrients it needed to continue operating. So what we could have took to school was not good, and I eventually stopped taking anything to school. We just didn't, our parents struggled just to provide the minimum, and it really had a bearing on everything. Really, it's not taking a lunch to school. It's kind of a source of shame, and it makes you feel lesser than the other kids, but you try to play it off and try to not make it have an impact on the way the other people see you, because you want to give the appearance you are normal and you want to be treated normal, because you want the normal experience. That's what you aim for. You only live once, and you know, the cream of living is experiencing normal, what is normal. So you really don't want to give any signals of the situation in your home life, and most of the time the system doesn't even want to deal with you, because you know, adults really are self-centered and they got their own things to focus on, their own lives. They just want to get the money and do their own thing, you know, take care of their own stuff. Their patience for other people is or other people's problems is really non-existent. But aside from that, if they were to take on your unfortunate circumstances, resolve them, they would have to find the resources, and you know, that's a whole another collection of problems that they would have to face, and really they don't want to go there. So although it was an underlying sense by them that of the situation, the home situation, by the psychiatrist who I used to go to for help, because I was causing issues at school, and the teachers and so on. They just stayed back, maybe for the dignity of our family as well. It's kind of taboo, and they also recognize people get defensive when it comes to money issues. They don't want to acknowledge that they are deficient in generating enough money to take care of their families, and they just the professionals, the guardians, the teachers, the psychiatrists just don't go there. But it is a main source of a lot of the problems behind what's troubling kids. It is what is mainly causing kids to be troubled. So I think one way or another it should be brought to the foreground, and the stigma behind it should be removed, and it should be addressed. Which I'm referring to is the nutritional side of the kids, what they're eating, how complete their diet is, how healthy it is, and of course the problem occurs where parents, and I think it's most parents, they just don't care, that they're not willing to step up and make sure their children eat properly. I think I said this before many times. Most parents are bad parents, if not all parents, and they should. Society needs to be remodeled into a parentless system where kids live on their own and separate from parents and family, because I think parents the structure, family structure today is an inhibitor to mankind. It's the source of all mankind's problems. But that's another issue, subject. So I hardly had the complete meals I needed growing up, and but of course I had the most essential amount of food, and it really affected everything in my behavior, in my mind. I was very hostile. I was very antisocial, hardly talked to anyone, that felt very self-conscious and low self-esteem. I felt lesser, but I pretended to be one of the others. I pretended to be normal, but I knew I wasn't being nurtured the way I should be, and you know, that's the symptom of poverty. It reached to a point where we brought issue with someone eating the last amount of gruel, which was in a powdered form. It's a Lebanese type of gruel, and there were just 2 tablespoons, and we caused a ruckus with my grandmother because we suspected she ate it, but it was me who actually ate it behind everyone else, and I let the blame fall on my grandmother, and it was the lowest moment in our home life at that time. But yeah, I stole the last serving of gruel, and you know, it felt very satisfying. It was a very satisfying serving. You know, it made my tummy happy, but I let my brothers suspect it was my grandmother who ate it, and yeah, they gave her a tongue lashing, and yeah, it was really shameful. but that was the lowest point. After that, she went and started collecting pension, and she moved to her own government supplied the senior housing, and she got to live in dignity thanks to a first world government. And so after that, she got to live in dignity, and I will forever be grateful. And she got to eat how she wanted. She got some disposable income, and she got to experience living in dignity as a human being for a short while before her death. And she passed on that experience to us when we would go visit her and stay at her place, sleep over. So that's what would happen. Me and my sister would on the weekends go over to my grandmother's, and for the first time, and I credit this to the grace of God, we would escape poverty. The drowning, the feeling of drowning in poverty, would get some reprieve from it, and yeah, it was an experience invaluable, especially when you're at the bottom. I already was a nice person because I turned made myself and reconvicted myself into being a kid Christian by then, and I felt it was the grace of God that He would take me out of the poverty I was in and into the wealth, good fortune that my grandmother found herself to be in. And occasionally, but it was much needed break from the poverty, and I can't say it changed me a lot, but it was a graceful thing to have happened to someone, and I appreciated, and it might have been needed, or dire things would have happened, but yeah, it brightens you up and makes you dream higher and better, and sees, of course, being in poverty, you dream of being in better circumstances, but experience it is another thing. But yeah, I spent a lot of time at my grandmother's place, just being, just living, and in a content way. And yeah, I think that's the best way of living, being content. And it was just a pleasure going to my grandmother's place, her giving us a few bucks to spend at the dollar store, buying some toys, just indulging in all that my grandmother had, and we indulged a lot. And yeah, we got to have a break from all the issues at home, all the conflicts at home and school, and yeah, what else? How can you credit that experience? Will it make it better to say it solved this and solved that? Or is it good enough to just say it did good, it was a good for a short period of time and had no real change in me? But yeah, it helped make me mature. It I guess that's one good in it. It taught me how to spend money. It taught me how to get what I want, buy what I want. But the first time I actually learned that was when there was a supermarket beside our house, and there were really cheap cookies in it, and my sister knew of them, and she bought some, and they were only $2 a whole large package full of chocolate chip cookies. And I'm like, really, you can get all these cookies for only $2? And then I would hand her the money, more and more, $2, so she can get more cookies. And at that time I was already in high school, and then I seen the power of money, how it can be converted into uh, something so substantial, such as a whole 2 dozen chocolate chip cookies, and without me having to make any sort of real effort to get them. It's all through the power of that $2, and that's when I started recognizing how money works, and that was really empowering. Now, having spent all that time at my grandmother's was it helped more than just the experience, I should say. It expanded my mind. It gave me time to focus on my imaginations and really rev up my imaginations and just experiment with thought and things, and so it was a big deal. Money is a big deal, and especially for kids. And now I have a disposable income of $100 a week. Not much money, but probably factoring in that I don't have to pay rent or for my food or anything, for the essentials, utilities. It's probably as much disposable income as a person making $100,000 a year in the Western Hemisphere, in the first world countries. I get to spend it on whatever I want, and let me tell you, I buy a lot of things with that 100 a week, and it's very sufficient. But I live very comfortable life, probably more comfortable than most of the rich and or billionaires, and except I envy their ability to get women and health care. Those are the only things I feel lacking compared to them, but otherwise I'm very well off. And the thing is, I feel bad for kids, because I know most kids do not have the same fortune I have. Although I can use more money and still have to put some effort to get it. I'm tortured a bit to get the money, but I know I hate thinking that kids uh, have lack any disposable income or any real amount of disposable income, or are aggravated to a large extent to get any disposable income. And because I get to see what disposable income can get you, and to think that kids are denied these things that I can get, and I have thousands of things, and every week I identify something I need which I don't have. I see how dire it is to be in a kid's circumstance and them have to use in their disposable income for transportation a lot of times, bus fare, and it really saddens me. So that's why I'm in favor of universal income. But of course, there must be a change in the money system to accompany universal income, because taxes are not gonna work. That's just not gonna do it, and we will have to abandon our checks and balances system in order to move into a new money system that can support universal income. And I just thought of this right in the morning, although I've been trying to figure out something since forever that would work. I was thinking maybe we can tax technological efficiency. Make a tax based on the productivity of automation of technology. The more productive a company is using technology, the more it's taxed. But I sense it will not work. Something is off, and that will just not work. It will just not be feasible, and I figured another system out, and that is I'm just trying to get it in my mind. It has escaped me right now, but I'll just talk about something else until it comes back to me. But yeah, most conflicts in the world are due to resources, and I believe technology, of course, is key to bringing on universal income, making it feasible. And I was watching a YouTube show, someone trying to be homeless in Dubai. Over there, you know, if you're a born natural citizen there, and you're a male, you got it made, because they were showing them having the most fancy cars and them not working at all. So that's the thing, and that's the issue surrounding changing our checks and balances system. It's incentivizing people to be productive. How can you incentivize people to be productive if you don't have a depth and depthy system? Obviously, seeing this in work in an actual place where this monetary system isn't in effect, we see the negatives, the consequences, and they're not good. The people are not incentivized to work, and they don't work. So, and that's the main issue. And this is what I figured. If incentive is the issue, it's really a non-argument, because we're somehow naturally, we have somehow naturally developed into the perfect transition from a different monetary system that's not about checks and balances. And you know, but I'll get to that later. The thing is, I will have a neighbor who's rebuilding their house, who are rebuilding their house, and you know, a neighbor I have great interest in. So I often wonder, when I look there, I see 10 people working there, constantly, and sometimes it goes up, sometimes the number goes down, but that's a lot of people, and they've been working for 2 years now. Let's put aside the fact they use really expensive labor as well, you know, high-end designers and things like that. Let's put this to the side, and let's put how much they're paying them to the side. But I often wonder, how can a husband and wife afford to employ 10 people, let's say on average, for 2 years to build their house? How does that work out in a checks and balances system? Obviously they're wealthy, somehow they generate more money than the average person, but that's the main question. How does that work, that 2 people can cause 10 people to work for them for more value, putting more labor into investing more labor into them than those 2 people can ever invest the labor all their life. Can labor all their life, and it just doesn't make sense, and there's no checks and balances in the sense of labor. And if we were to give everyone a free ride, it will not work out, because you can't, every person can't have 10 people working to build them a house. So there's a productivity imbalance, and the answer, of course, is technology. We shift technology, shift labor from something else to the construction of a house, and that's the way you make it work. So the key is technology, but now the question is, how do you incentivize people to do work? And see, the answer is, and the answer to a new system is, and it lies in the young generation, it is video games. See, people, the young are working already for no money. They're putting substantial effort, and they're being conditioned to do a job, which is to conquer a video game. Using video games, they're being conditioned to do jobs for no money using video games, and this is a perfect situation, and this is what is needed to break from this checks and balances system to a new monetary system that includes universal income. See if we can get people to participate in creating production through technology, and creating goods, and if we can get them wanting to, if we can put the goal, and that's the key goal, the goal of society, and that's what it is, a goal. Money is a goal. If we can make the goal to increase production, and I mean through technology, if we can say to the masses, if you make this more productive, we will have more universal income to spread around, and people will just naturally gravitate to those causes, and the causes can be just thrown out into the nether world, and people will just grab them and work on them just for the sake of increasing the universal income. Of course, I mean separate to the regular income, and ultimately the system will reach the monetary system will no longer be necessary, and there will be no need for a monetary system, and that's the way it will progress eventually. And let's not forget, the monetary system is relatively new in history, and it's bound to change. So like everything else, it will certainly change, and not for the worse, not for disastrous consequences, conflicts,